If you've been enjoying our podcast as much as we have and hope that we continue past 50 episodes, here's your chance. Here's your chance to help make that happen. By becoming a Patreon subscriber, not only will you help the Little House on the Prairie 50th Anniversary podcast to live on, but you'll also get exclusive content just for you.
Here's what's in store for you. Join monthly Q&A sessions where you can ask us about anything. Whether it's about our work, personal interests, or advice on your own projects, we're here to connect and share.
Enjoy unique content created specifically for Patreon subscribers, including bonus segments from our shows.
You'll have a say in what we create, and you'll have a voice in future content.
Benefit from exclusive discounts on merchandise and entries into special giveaways. It's our way of saying thank you for your support.
Receive personalized shout-outs in videos, podcasts, or social media posts.
Because your support on Patreon allows us to dedicate more resources to creating the content that you love.
You could join the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast community on Patreon and become a Prairie patron for just $5 a month. We thank you so much for your continued support, and we cannot wait to share our ongoing journey with you on Patreon.
We are extremely grateful for the support of VisitSimiValley.com and the city of Simi Valley's belief in Little House on the Prairie and their support of the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast. Hello, hello. Happy New Year, bonnet heads. This is the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast from the studios of UBNGO in Burbank, California. I know I never say that first. I always say that last. But today is a different sort of episode. I am here solo right now on behalf of our beloved Prairie biatch, Allison Arngrim, and our hashtag imaginary boyfriend, Dean Butler. Today, we have a very special one for you. We're so excited to kick off this countdown with your bonnethead host. That's right. It is I, Pamela Bob, creator and star of Living on a Prairie. Together, we are going to revisit some of the best podcast episodes of 2024, and there were so many great ones. And we're going to relive some of the most fun moments from this incredible year. From our 43 amazing episodes to our multiple Patreon and Instagram lives, 2024 was a year filled with Little House magic. That's right. We celebrated the 50th anniversary in Simi Valley, California, where we had the pleasure of meeting many of you, wonderful fans. Plus, Dean and Allison attended Little House events across the country, some crazy, some awesome. And Dean even released his own book. What a year. Incredible. Through all the highs and the lows, the love for Little House remained a constant, however, and a comforting presence in all of our lives. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with a very special Best of 2024 episode.
Discover the charm of Simi Valley, California, the home of the Prairie. Visit Simi Valley, where adventure meets history and the spirit of the Prairie comes alive. Explore the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, step aboard Air Force One, enjoy stunning hikes and savor delicious local cuisine. Whether you're here for a weekend getaway or a family vacation, Simi Valley offers something for everyone and is only 30 minutes from Los Angeles. Plan your visit today and experience the best of Simi Valley. Go to visitsimivalley.com for more details. Your adventure awaits in Simi Valley.
Welcome back to the Little House 50th Anniversary podcast. Today we're counting down our top 10 episodes of 2024. Get ready to relive some of the most heartwarming, hilarious, and insightful moments from this incredible year. Okay, let's dive right in. Kicking off our top 10 is our special episode with Cozy TV. That's right. We dove into the magic of Little House on the Prairie and discussed why it continues to captivate audiences of all ages. Enjoy this clip from episode 32, Loving Little House with Cozy TV. And we're back with Tom Hill, Aggie Fodor, and Cody Broadway. Have to do the jazz hands when we say his name. To talk about Little House on the Prairie's 50th anniversary on Cozy TV.
Okay, so
Very
Cody was
excited about.
there at the scene. Now, Simi Valley was mind-blowing. Was it 18,000 people, that thing? That was, I mean, we'd never seen anything like it.
18,000 from 27 countries.
I remember the Peruvians stopped by my table. It was quite something. So what surprised you the most? I mean, we were just like, our minds were blown the whole
shocked
3
all the time,
days.
yeah.
We were a mess.
I
surprised you?
think just the energy, when you have 18,000 people in it, and to be able to have that type of energy on the positive side, and everyone just really in all about what was going on and all about all of the signings and things that the meet and greets that went on. And everyone said, how wholesome the show was and how it made them feel. You talked about David Rose earlier. Several people talked about how the score itself was one of the emotional side of really embarked the emotional side for them. That is something that I've done several stories over my career, and just the fact that people are paying that close attention to those types of details speaks a lot. And those were probably the biggest prizes and takeaways.
Okay, next up we have maybe one of the coolest people I've ever met, Rick Oakey, a network executive and writer for Little House on the Prairie, coming in at number 9. He offers a unique perspective on the show's creation and development. This episode I truly, truly loved and learned so much I had never learned before. So enjoy this clip from episode 29, From the Network to the Writer's Room with Rick Oakey. The Writer's Room with Michael Landon. I am fascinated by this. What was your job? You weren't writing on Little House, were you?
No, not. I wrote on Highway to Heaven. But
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, so you had a lot of time with Michael Landon.
Yeah. Mike always worked with a pretty small staff. I think that went back to Bonanza days. He wrote a lot of the episodes himself, so he didn't need a giant team of people to fill up the rest of the dance card. Stories were all done collaboratively. Everybody would gather in a room and sort of, because that's the hardest part of it all, frankly. Writing the dialogue is easier than cracking the story. And it's kind of amazing. I'll just tell you one story. This is actually a Highway to Heaven story, but it's a good one. I was in there working out a story with him and Dan Gordon, who was the story editor on that show. And we were working our way through it, and we hit a wall. And I don't know, my tendency is I don't like to let the room go silent. I feel like I'm not carrying my weight if I don't pitch ideas. And I start to open my mouth to say something, and Dan's hand comes over and sort of pushes me back on my chest. Because Michael is sitting back in his chair with his eyes closed, probably 5 minutes. You're just sitting here waiting. And then he sits up and he says, "When I was a little kid, my parents made me take swimming lessons." And he tells this story out of his own childhood about learning how to swim and diving into the pool and, getting it over his head and whatever it was. And by the time he was finished, he had wrapped that story from his own past into the moment that we were talking about in the story. And it cracked the story wide open, and the rest was easy to do. And it was just, I'd never seen anybody just go inside quietly, find that thing, bring it out, and then everything else fell into place. And that's Michael in a nutshell, story-wise. He's probably the best I ever saw that way. The stories were relatively simple, but left plenty of room for character complexity and unexpected things happening, which was, what more can you ask?
Next on the countdown at number 8 is a heartwarming episode. We had the pleasure of chatting with none other than Charlotte Stewart, who played the beloved Miss Beadle. Charlotte shared her fondest memories of working on the show and discussed the impact that Little House has had on her life. Here's a clip from episode 9, Back to the Schoolroom with Charlotte Stewart. I would love it if you could sort of summarize your audition for Little House. That story has always blew me away. Can you sort of give a little bit of that story, and also about, what you remember best about being on the show?
I will. I used to do a lot of Westerns. I did Bonanza and Gunsmoke and all of those, costumed things. And so I just thought it was another one of those interviews. I had no idea never heard of Little House on the Prairie, never saw the books,
Oh, wow.
nothing. So I went in cold, literally cold. And when I got there in the waiting room, there were about, 8 other women all in Prairie clothes. I'm in my usual tie-dye T-shirt and jeans because I was a hippie. Back in 1973, I lived in the canyon and, did a little of this, a little of that. So I had no idea. And I walked in the room and there was Michael Landon. And I thought, oh my God, this is huge.
Oh, so you didn't even know he was you didn't even know he was involved in the project, let alone be there. Wow.
I had no idea. But the scene I was to read was Laura and Mary's first day at school. So that's all I knew. I was welcoming them into school. Well, I walk in the room and there's all these men and the producer sitting at the big desk, in the back of the room. And they said, "Are you ready to read?" And I said to the producer, "Excuse me, can I sit behind your desk?" Looked at me. The men all looked at each other like, what is she? And I walked up to his desk. He got up very graciously and moved. And I sat down and they're still going and I went, quiet. Oh my God. I don't know why I did that, but I think it got me the part.
Coming in at number 7, Lucy Lee Flippin, one of my personal faves, who portrayed Almanzo's big sister Eliza Jane Wilder. Yes, I know, Almanzo. Get over it. She joined us to discuss her experience on the show. Together, we talked about her character's journey and development, along with behind-the-scenes stories from her time on the show. So enjoy this clip from episode 10, Meet the Wilders with Lucy Lee Flippin.
Just unique because you bring such a specialness to it. Now, I've always wanted to ask you this. Did you know, well, you couldn't have known, that we were mispronouncing the name of Almanzo as we started, and you were the first one to say it on camera. So I always pin it on you.
Yeah, you've been thrown under the bus.
Yeah, I've been throwing you under that bus for years.
That's so not fair, Dean.
No, of course it's not fair, but it's a good story.
I know, but no one corrected me.
No, that's crazy.
Not Michael Landon, not the script supervisor.
Nobody did.
I thought it sounded nice, Almanzo.
Yeah, Almanzo, but call me Manny.
Almanzo.
Yeah, but Almanzo, my friends call me Manny. Nice to meet you, Manley. I mean, it's like, what were we thinking? It's like it was right there in front of us and we didn't see it.
Yeah, but it wasn't just you. Apparently, it was everyone.
Oh, it was everybody. No,
yeah.
absolutely. I mean, Lucy and I, we've talked about this. I mean, Lucy, you and I at that stage on that day, we were never going to make a suggestion or ask a question about anything like that.
No.
Was that scene your first day? Was that scene your first
I introduced Dean to Melissa.
Yeah.
Right.
Almanzo.
Yes. That was our first scene together, and it was the first morning that we worked on the show together.
We were in a buckboard.
Yeah. Actually, it was in the afternoon. It was after lunch, I think, but it was that first day.
I felt like we were two little puppies, kind of, oh, where are we?
Yeah, I know.
Patrick Laberteau, who played Andrew Garvey, coming in at number 6. He shared with us his thoughts on the enduring legacy of Little House. We discussed his journey to landing the role, his fond memories with Michael Landon and the cast, and the show's enduring themes and legacy. Now, a clip from episode 7, Little House Will Outlive Us All, with Patrick Laberteau.
50 years of Little House. I'm just curious for you. You know, you have a really good, broad sense of television, of film, of the industry in general. What do you think about when you think about 50 years of Little House? What comes to mind for you?
A conversation I had with Michael Landon. We were having lunch one day, and Mork and Mindy was this huge hit. You know, it was just like overtaking everything. In fact, they shot across the street from us at Paramount. And I was talking to Michael about it. He goes, "No, it's good. It's good. It's going to disappear in a couple of years. You'll still be on TV in 50 years, but it'll disappear." And I couldn't wrap my head around it. I was like, "What are you talking about, Michael Landon?" Like I knew more than Michael Landon. I said, "It's Mork." And he goes, "Yeah, but the suspenders and the comedy, and we're dressed in the 1870s, 1880s. We're we're not going to change. We're going to stay the same.
We're old
and
we're new.
Yeah, and it's just going to stay on television. And at that time, there was no real syndication. I didn't see how it could stay on TV. But he was so right about that flash forward, I was on another show called Jag, which was a show not at all like Little House, except I had the conversation with its creator, Don Belisario, telling him this story about Michael Landon. And I go, the reason I'm telling you this story is because we're in uniform. It's going to be kind of like the same thing. Yeah. And he agreed. It was kind of amazing how it was similar to that point, where when I think of Little House and how its history has affected TV, it's going to be on forever because it always looks the way it looks. It was shot on film. Teddy Voigtlander did such a great job with the lighting and everything that it's so cinematic. Yeah. And because you had the creativity of Michael Landon, I always tell the story about, I've been in a lot of funeral scenes, from Little House to movies to whatever, and they take forever because you have the whole cast there. Everyone gets their own coverage. It takes forever. It's a day and a half at the grave site, except for Michael Landon, who shoots everything 50 yards away in a silhouette in kind of like this beautiful shot where everything is done in one shot, and then we move on. And it's just like
with gorgeous music to accompany it. Yeah.
And it's that type of filmmaking that Michael did, that because he had the juice, he could say, yeah, I'm doing this. He didn't have to answer to producers saying, where's the coverage? What are we going to cut to? Right. He goes, you don't cut to anything. It's a tableau and beautiful acting.
Okay, it's time for our top 5. Okay, at number 5, in this episode, we discussed one of the classic Little House episodes from season 1, For the Love of Johnny Johnson, with none other than Johnny Johnson himself, Mitch Vogel. Mitch made a big impression on audiences everywhere as Laura's first OG Little House crush. Let's dive into this clip from episode 40, For the Love of Johnny Johnson with Mitch Vogel.
I just have to tell you, as I was watching it the other night, I am blown away in this show that you are working throughout it barefooted.
It's all he could talk about. It's all he could talk about. I just
couldn't believe as I'm watching you working barefooted out there. I'm wondering, do they have some sort of sole wired to the bottom of your foot or something? I don't know how you did that.
Well, it's so funny you ask about that, because I'll tell you, when I happened to I was at Paramount Studios for something else, and I knew that Michael was shooting there. You guys were shooting there in the stage. So I dropped by to say hi, and he calls the two Melissas over, and he has me stand in between them, and he's looking, he's going to take your shoes off. So I took my shoes off, which brought me down a ways because I had boots on. And he goes, yeah, I think that might work. So that's why Johnny Johnson is barefoot, basically.
No way.
Seriously?
Yeah. And you were asking about my feet. Well, one of the first days of filming, we were coming down the famous hill. We were walking, I guess, back from school. And I'm a pretty tenderfoot guy. And I was, we did the take, and I remember saying, how was that? And he said, well, it's great, except we have to do it again. And I said, why? And he says, because your elbows were going up like this, because I was going,
I don't know how you did that.
What they did was, they ended up getting some leather that had it was adhesive on one side, and they cut it to the shape of my feet, and voila, I was able to walk around without my elbows popping up high in the air like that.
Literally, I just guessed that's maybe what would have happened, because this was a huge point of contention. I'm just going to jump. I'm sorry, Pamela. I'm jumping all over you here because this moment, this is huge. In the beginning of the series, there was a huge creative fight in the executive suites about whether all the kids should be going barefoot all the time. Oh. Ed Friendly, who was the creator of the series, wanted the children working barefoot all the time, and Michael just said, absolutely not. And that was a huge moment there. When I saw you working barefoot, I thought, well, I mean, was this was someone trying to make a point here? I mean, how did this work? When I saw you walking up and down that hill, and we've all been at Simi Valley,
We know what that feels like.
Well,
the
that's what
rocks,
I was going to say.
everything.
I was able to run down the hill when I went to Simi, and I couldn't believe how rough it was. Like, I couldn't believe that those girls were able to run down the hill because I could barely do it. It's rough, it's sharp, it's prickly, and the terrain is all over the place. Like, it's not a nice, like, it's not a strolling hill you can just sort of run down. So yes, I can say I too have tried going down and walking. I couldn't have gone barefoot down that hill at all.
The countdown continues, my friends. At number 4, we have Karen Grassley. She is celebrated as one of the most iconic TV moms in history. Karen shared how she discovered her passion for acting at a young age, reflected on the healing process of writing her deeply personal memoir, and even took the time to answer some of your listener questions. Here's a clip from episode 30, Mother Courage with Karen Grassley.
How did you decide, because you consciously chose to become an actor and come to Hollywood and do all this, what led you to do that?
I feel I was chosen, Allison. It felt like I had no choice.
Really? I mean, you had no choice but to be an actor.
Had to do it.
Okay, so let's talk about that. I think that's really interesting.
That's
so
awesome.
what is that inner dialogue that's telling you, I have no choice, I have to do this? What is that?
I had been performing since I was a kid, whether it was Sunday school, school plays. I was in dancing lessons, and we had a big show every year, and our teacher took us out, had us perform in other venues. So I had been a performer, and my parents were absolutely terrified that I was going to go that direction.
Wow.
And it was very, very clear to me that what I was supposed to do was to go to college and get a good, safe, solid job, like be a school teacher. Then you always have a job. And as you may remember, there were not that many jobs open to women in those days. There were many fewer professional women. So when I said to my social studies teacher, well, what does a lawyer do? He said, oh, don't be a lawyer, marry a lawyer.
Oh,
wow. Isn't that interesting?
That's how it was.
Yeah, sure.
And he had my best interest at heart.
Sure.
Of course.
Sure. Okay, so you but you go from lawyer. How does actor fit in? Okay, come to actor.
Okay, so then I go to Berkeley, and I do my best to not try out for a play. And finally, I give in, and I get the female lead, and we start rehearsal, and I am home.
All right, at number 3 is episode 12 with Leslie Landon Matthews and Michael Landon Jr. This special podcast episode was recorded literally hours after the Simi Valley 50th anniversary event had ended. We had the pleasure of discussing the celebration with special guests, Leslie Landon Matthews and Michael Landon Jr., and we were all tired and blurry-eyed and overwhelmed with emotion from what had happened at that festival. So enjoy this clip from episode 12, reminiscing about Little House with Leslie Landon Matthews and Michael Landon Jr.
When you think back to the years you spent with your father as he's creating this, how would you encapsulate what his mission was with what he created and what we all were a part of? And I'm just curious how you got it, what it felt like to you.
The first thing that pops in my head, I think his mission was to bring families together, that they could have an hour where they sit together and they feel all the emotions and talk about it. I think it was important for him to have family television that really meant something to everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he grew up with a dysfunctional family, and so he wanted to create the ideal. He wanted to point all of us in the right direction. Yes, we're going to falter, we're going to come short of the mark, but it was due north. It was true north.
Yeah.
For families.
Yeah. The other big highlight, honestly, for me was obviously experiencing this with Mike the whole weekend. But so many people would turn to my brother and talk about their love for When Calls the Heart and Love Comes Softly. And to see, the legacy of beautiful family television through Mike and having people say to him how much they love his work was such a gift also for us.
We are just about at the end of this countdown, and it is time to reveal the final 2. Now, just so you know, this countdown was determined by listener and viewership numbers, making them the most popular episodes on our YouTube channel. So that's how we're determining the top 10. So coming in at number 2 is episode 18 with Melissa Gilbert, of course. In this episode, we chatted with Melissa about all things Little House on the Prairie, from her experiences growing up on set to everything in between. Here is episode 18, Sweet Melissa Part 1 with Melissa Gilbert. And yes, there is a part 2. You can find it online or on our podcasts.
Allison was, as we all know, your bestie during that whole time. So, but what was it like? There she is. So I'm sure that helped with the fun of going to work every day. But after she left, what was it like?
Dumb.
Just stupid.
It was just pointless and stupid. I mean, Dean was there, and that was nice. Sorry, Dean. And there were some people stayed behind. Richard, Bull, and my brother. My brother wouldn't leave. I don't know why.
Why? I wouldn't know.
He just stayed there to annoy me, I think.
Because when I came back, season 9, Return of Nellie, and I was there, I remember you and several other people said, it's kind of quiet around here. It's a little dull. Could you maybe just don't even be on the show, just come to the sets or something?
Well, the next gen of kids were a little different, like Shannon and David and Alice and Balson, and those guys, they felt seriously like next gen kid actors because they were really focused on career stuff. And I was just, we were just like, oh, we get to dress up and be on camera and we're going to have candy. Right. These guys were like, I need to call my publicist. And it was a whole other mindset with the other kids in the next gen. And their parents were different too.
Okay, the moment we've all been waiting for. Drum roll, please. Coming in at number 1 as the most viewed and listened to episode on YouTube and the overall fan favorite. You guessed it right. It is Melissa Sue Anderson. Episode 27, There's Something About Mary, Part 1. And yes, there is a Part 2, so go ahead and listen to that when you're done with this. It was honestly so special for many of us fans, including myself. It was such a rare treat to hear from Melissa Anderson after so many years, and personally sort of like this crazy dream come true. Huge thank you to Allison for making it happen, and to obviously Melissa Anderson for joining us twice on the podcast. So enjoy an exclusive bonus clip also. Oh yeah, that was previously only available on Patreon. Enjoy.
Hi, Patreon Prairie peeps. Welcome. We're here with Melissa Anderson, and she's going to ask some of your burning questions. Ready, Melissa? Here we go. This is from Twickanuck24. I want to know, are you Team Adam or Team Manly? And this could be scandalous.
Well, today it's Manly, of course.
Right. Wow.
That's very opportunistic of you, Melissa.
I'm cheating on Adam.
Okay.
What a great answer, though. I love that.
Okay, James Suter McDade says, I would like to know if Melissa Anderson today, beautiful and grown up, would have any advice for Melissa Sue Anderson as a little girl. Is there anything that she would like to say to those that perhaps misunderstood her as being maybe standoffish or whatever terms were used to describe her sometimes? She said, I had a hard time growing up, and I also had a really hard time being misunderstood. So she would like to know what you think about that.
Yes. Well, if I could do it again or take some advice from my older self, I would try to say, enjoy life more. Don't be so hard. I'm, my own worst critic, of course, and take it easier. And then I would be lighter if I would have been lighter, and therefore I would have been less misunderstood, I think, by others, I think, too.
Interesting. Okay, great.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, I mean, that's for so many of us. That's what we experience.
Absolutely.
Too. Laura Smith Thatcher wants to know: was there anyone on the set, actor or otherwise, who you felt close to?
I felt close to a lot of the crew, our crew. We had a focus. I think he was a focus puller, camera guy. His name was Mike
Menardis.
And,
yes.
Right. And
lovely guy.
And he and I was close to him. And there was another guy too, another camera guy as well. And now his name is not coming to me, but and Kenny, our operator.
Kenny Hunter.
Yes. I was close to him.
Like
sometimes
grandpa.
I actually rode my bike on the weekends, and I would stop at their house and say hi to them, and then continue on my bike ride.
Was the USC fight song playing out of his house all the time?
Not that I recall.
Yeah. His horn in his car played the USC fight song. I love that. Yeah.
Okay. So, and Mike Landon, of course. I think we didn't spend a lot of time together, but we were close, and I think we understood each other in an interesting way. And when he asked me to do The Loneliest Runner, to play his childhood girlfriend,
which is great.
I was so honored to do it. And he didn't do it out of convenience. Like, oh, look how easy this would be. She's right here. She can do it. He did it because he knew it would mean a lot to me too, and that I could do it. And so it was just another really nice part of our relationship.
Our crew was really cool. I loved our crew.
Yeah.
There were so many guys on our crew who were just such wonderful, fun, funny, kind people. You could
such pros.
You had a crew. You had a crew you could hang out with. They were good people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next question.
This was another inquiring minds want to know kind of question that several people had. But Quesica96 wants to know, such a big deal was made about Laura being 17 or 18 to marry Almanzo in the series. However, no issue was made about Mary and Adam. Wasn't Mary just as young or younger? And I will add to that also with John Jr., you were really young when you were doing that kind of romantic
50
stuff too.
And nobody
So
cared about
why
me and
are-
that pig
no,
farmer either,
Yeah, why are we not caring about anyone else?
But I
Was
know.
it difficult for you? What was your experience with that?
Well, it was difficult for me to do the to act act well with the John Jr. stuff, because I wasn't very good, because I was just not into it. I was not just no. I couldn't get over. I couldn't do it well.
How old were you when that was happening?
I was like 14, I think.
Oh,
something
God.
like, something like.
Yes, you're a baby.
How, was he older than you?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
A little bit.
But
No,
but,
he
you know,
was, because he was older than me.
Oh.
I he wasn't my type. He's a very nice guy, and a good actor, very good actor. But I was young, too young for that, and he wasn't. And I let it get in the way of I was not a good enough actor at that time to overcome that. I wasn't professional enough. Maybe I got kind of through it, but I was not great.
But chemistry is a real thing. Chemistry is a real thing.
I think maybe Melissa looked young. Melissa always looked. She had a very youthful look about her all the time.
Sense. And you had a very mature, and you were very mature for your age.
I think that maybe was the reason that they gave her a hard time. She just always looked, and she had a higher voice.
She still does.
Her overall appearance was younger.
Now you looked very comfortable with Linwood, even though again another age difference, just like me and Steve Tracy, just like with Dean. There was these guys were in their 20s and we were teenagers, and it was like, what the heck?
Right.
But you see, that seemed to work. But chemistry is a real thing. I got very lucky with Steve Tracy, but chemistry is a thing. If it's not there, it's not there. But Linwood, that seemed okay.
My lesson. Right. And I had learned my lesson by that time, and also. I was older, so it wasn't so odd to me. It wasn't so, I didn't have to, it was fine. It was totally fine. And I just knew I just could be better then. And Linwood's a delight, and, and not that Rodimus wasn't, just, I was just better by that time.
Yeah, and older. A lot happens between 14 and 16.
Oh
or
my
14
God,
and
yes.
17. A whole lifetime happens.
Yes.
Okay, one last question, and I can't find who this question was from, but also it was a general question from everyone, which is, what have you been doing for the past 43 years?
Well, I worked off and on for a long time, but less and less when I had my kids, because my husband is a writer, executive producer, and traveled a lot, of course, back to here and there, and back to LA. We moved to Montreal because there was more work in Canada at that time.
Love Montreal
for him. Yeah. So then he would be. Then of course he's making trips to LA. But I wanted them to grow up normally and not be, not be in their, the shadow of their parents or expected to go into the business because they're, because that's what their parents did.
Right.
So it was important to me, and I think, and it was nice and it was fun, and I didn't feel I was missing out at all. I felt like I had done that, and it was important, and I really enjoyed parenting.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what I've been doing.
That's something that I noticed, that you had a huge focus on your kids' education, and that, like most child actors, no, we do not put them in the business. And I remember that I really liked, because I didn't, and Melissa, and I believe you didn't, none of us went to university. We did our thing, we did high school, we did work, but we didn't go to college. And that you made sure that your kids did the whole thing and went to college and got the full education. And I remember thinking that was a very cool thing to do.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it's very important. I think they're both kind of creative people as well. But I wanted them to have a really good, solid background, so that they could then, and I also said, make it a hobby, do it as a hobby, and then you'll really enjoy it. You won't be, you won't be waiting for your, your check to come.
Yes. I mean, it's such an unnatural business for an adult, and as a kid, I just, it's beyond.
Oh, right. But I didn't want them to grow. In essence, I didn't want them to grow up and be in the and hopefully not be in this business. It was good to me. It's been very good to me. But if they did, I certainly wanted them to have something that they could fall back on.
Yeah, I think that's great. And really interesting that everyone says, no, I'm not putting my kids into showbiz. Interesting. It's just very interesting. But anyway, we're going to wrap things up. Thank you so much for answering questions. We have so many more questions. So please come back and we can finish up all of the questions that are.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're the best.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Dean.
You're awesome.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, oh, my goodness.
Thanks,
yes.
Allison.
Thank you.
Wow. Okay. What a year of Little House love. We have loved reuniting with our favorite Little House stars and other guests. I also want to give a special shout out to Mo Rocca, because that for me was also like a high point of the podcast this year. I just love him. I know you guys love him too, but I'm giving him a shout out. Maybe he was number 11. I don't know. He didn't make the top 10. Go listen to Mo Rocca. Anyway, making these podcasts is truly, it is such a joy. It is a blast for Allison, Dean, and myself. We've had so many laughs along the way. So, enjoy some of our funniest moments from our past year. Here it is.
But it would be lovely to hear you speak a little about your relationship with Dean and maybe how it progressed over the years as well.
Dean will hide under the desk.
Yes,
probably.
La 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 la. Go ahead.
I love Montreal, but everyone does talk like Celine Dion. Hello, bonjour, bonjour, good morning, What is everyone saying?
And where is she? Is she crawling up behind the table? There she is.
This happened last time too.
I know.
This is every week.
This is her, right? And that was very funny.
The Nigerians in the email, the Nigerian emails, I have the prince and I have $1 million.
Yes.
Always call everyone dear. They always say, my dear, I have it. My dear, this is Dean. For my dear, I have made this video for you to show you I am real. And for my fans to communicate with them who would like to. And it talks and it goes on and it's horrifying.
What is happening? I was like, Dean Butler, shut your mouth. It's the scene of the entire show. Are you kidding me?
Millions of women going, are you kidding?
But what was the question again?
Would you go back and do it again? I mean,
would you do it again? Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you say yes.
Of course I would.
And we got some really great. We've got some great ones. Are you ready?
Okay. I was until Arngrim started mugging and making me nervous.
I'm reading these things and going.
I'll start with I'm gonna go back to a book.
I have to say something panel, because you were talking about acting. You should get master.
Oh yes.
You called me to ask me for acting tips because you were doing FBI, and yes. I told you to get a good night's sleep and pack light snacks.
No, you just told me to snack.
I told you to pack light snack.
Well, and also among other people, gay people love you.
Oh, so thank you.
So
icon.
That on you. And by the way,
why is that? What is the key to that?
I think it's because, and I haven't given this a lot of thought, but I know that I loved it. That immediately, it was like the radar, like in Lady and the Tramp when the dogs all hear the call. It was like, okay, Alice is on TV, like come over, like she's on TV. Alice, like
yay, bat signal. Thumbs up. Shaped like grillets.
It's sort of like in the 70s. I love Carson. Don't get me wrong, and I still watch on Antenna TV, the old Carsons. But when Joan Rivers was on, early on, it was like if you were a gay kid, it was like.
Yeah.
You could see what jokes she was going to tell.
You do know what Riz comes from. What this whole Riz.
No, so what? Means. No, I don't know. I don't.
Oh, it's actually from a real word. Like most of this skibbity.
That my child says every other word. Yes.
Yeah, it's the new groovy far out man, whatever. But
Mrs. Whipple gone wild. I see how it is. Yeah.
What? Oh, is that a cat?
That was Tony. Sorry, what? That was. Are you okay?
We haven't heard that sound effect. Was that a cat or was that Donald Duck? Tony, which one was it?
It was Donald. Okay, Donald Duck stepping on a cat. I don't know. That was great. Beauty is fleeting, villainy is forever. I don't know. But oh my God!
Yes, hello. There's another T-shirt.
Another T-shirt. That's another T-shirt.
I think write that down.
Beauty's fleeting, abilities forever. And Christine, I know you're with this. Write that down.
Bob, get the wig. Here we go. Let's fly, people.
Bob, get the wig.
Okay. Those were some hilarious moments.
Oh, guys, it brings me so much joy to be a part of the Little House family and legacy through this podcast. This past year has been incredible, and the podcast team is so excited for a new year and season 2. That's right, we're keeping the Little House spirit alive. Thank you, listeners, for your continued support, your viewership, your Patreon memberships, and your love. It's because of you that we can keep doing this. So we hope you'll continue to support us in 2025. Spread the word about the podcast. Go visit our merch shop. It's so good, you guys. And we're going to be putting some new stuff on the merch shop very, very soon. We're expanding. That's all I'll say for now. But anyway, please spread the word to your friends and your family. Together, we can make this podcast even bigger and better for the Little House fans who've helped keep this legacy alive. And that is our intention and our plan for 2025. It's going to be a big year. So from Dean, Allison, and myself, we wish you a very happy new year. We can't wait to come back soon with new episodes and exciting surprises. Cheers to the new year, bonnet heads. Little House forever.